Are you about to make a costly mistake in the Saskatoon's real estate market? Well, here's the truth. Inventories are at record level low with demand going like crazy. Waiting too long could cost you thousands of dollars, or worse, leaving you priced out altogether. So stay tuned in this video because I'm going to be breaking down exactly what's happening in the Saskatoon real estate market, what happened in December 2024, and the whole year of 2024 as a whole, and what it means for your next move. If you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, or relocating here to Saskatoon, I'd love to help you navigate the dynamic real estate market that we have here in Saskatoon. Every week, people just like you are reaching out to me for guidance, whether they want to relocate here to Saskatoon or move into a bigger home or sell to downsize, whatever it may be. I'm here to make the process as smooth as possible. Feel free to give me a call if you need any assistance. My number is 1306-370-6179, or it's in the description below for my contact information and any other links, such as searching the properties that are available on the market or seeing what your home is worth or any other resources on my website. So diving into the real estate market statistics for December 2024 and last year in total. So in December, there was a total of 256 home sales. That's 12% more compared to last year and 20% more compared to the 10-year average. So the majority of homes that were purchased were detached homes. There's 151 detached homes. That was an 18% increase compared to last year. Semi-detached, look at that. So those are your half duplexes, 80% more compared to last year, quite a bit more. Townhouses dropped down from last year, but there was still 38. Apartments also dropped down compared to last year by 13%. 27. No acreages were sold in December, 2 mobile home parks, and 3 multifamily properties, which was the exact same as last year. And as for 2024, there was a total of 5,035 sales, and that is the second highest that Saskatoon has ever seen on history. As we can see from this graph here, in 2021, that's when we actually experienced the highest. So that was at the peak of COVID. Sales just skyrocketed. There was 5,492 total sales, with the peak month being June. And then in December, or not even December, but the full year of 2024, there's 5,165 sales. So going back to this, I want to repeat that. And as for 2024, there was a total of 5,165,000 sales. And in 2024 of a whole, there was a total of 5,165 sales. And that is the second highest that we've ever seen on history here in Saskatoon. So going to this graph here, we could see that in 2021, that was actually the peak highest number of sales we've ever seen on history in Saskatoon, with a total of 5,492. And then this year, 2024, there was a total of 5,165. And so still a lot, obviously more than last year, more than 2022, and more than 2020. Compared to last year, there's about 400 more sales. So that is still a substantial amount. The peak months that we saw for sales was May. There's still a good amount of sales in October and September and August, which usually starts to wind down. But as we can see, the spring months tend to be a lot busier, and then it starts to fizzle down for the seasonality things. So we'll see what happens in 2025, but that's what we saw in 2024 and the previous 5 years. So from the total number of sales, with it being on a graph, we can see that there was a surge 2021, and then 2024, quite the same. It dipped down in 2022 and 2023. However, it did increase last year. Now moving on to the sales comparisons from this December to the previous 10 years in December. Well, in December in 2020 and 2021, those were also peak times of sales. Just with COVID, the market went crazy. And even this year in 2024, we're still at quite a high level compared to the 10-year average. We're quite a bit above compared to last year in 2022. And as you can see, the detached homes were the most popular, followed by row townhouses, then apartments, then semi-detached homes. So now moving on to the inventory story. Right now, we're only at 555 total properties for sale, which is actually 24% lower compared to last year and 54% lower compared to the 10-year average. In December, we also saw only 235 new listings come for sale. The amount of new listings is still lower compared to what we've been experiencing in previous years, which is not good for a inventory standpoint, since the sales are increasing The new listings are not as high as they should be. Inventory is not as high as it should be. So it still is creating that dynamic, hot, competitive market with just the supply and demand that there is. So now moving on here to the inventory and new listings on a category basis, with detached being the highest category for inventory and new listings. They're still both down quite a bit, with inventory being down 27% compared to last year and new listings being down by 3%. Semi-detached, they're also seeing a decrease by 47%. So those half duplexes, there's not as many as there once was. Same thing with those new listings. They don't seem to be coming up nearly as often, 58% lower from the new listing standpoint of view. And as for townhouses, pretty on par compared to last year. It seemed to be a hot commodity and pretty average. New listings, there seems to be quite a bit of those townhouses popping up on the market. And as for apartments, those are dropping as well for just inventory in general. So not that many of those new properties coming up for sale either. However, mobile home parks seem to be increasing, and multifamily, there's very minimal activity. Just 2 new listings and then 2 currently for sale. Now, moving on to the total inventory that we can see here, the amount of inventory was drastically more 5 years ago. And as you can see, the seasonality ebbs and flows from year over year with the winter and the summer and the spring markets. However, overall, as a full year kind of inventory picture, we see that it's substantially decreasing year over year, which, as you can understand, is not good from the demand that we're experiencing, because, as you know, limited supply and increased demand just creates an influx of the overall price of homes. Appreciation is increasing, and just the overall growth is not able to support it here in Saskatoon. With this decrease of supply and increase of demand with the sales that we can see, there needs to be some sort of resolution, because the prices and the competition just keeps on going up and up. But as we will talk about in a moment here, with the building permits and just the population that we're experiencing in Saskatchewan, it's not keeping up with the demand and the inventory that we're experiencing here in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan. So looking at the total residential stats from the previous graph as well, we saw that it was decreasing, but this is quite a bit more drastic and longer stretched yearly amount. All the way back from 2013, we saw a peak back in 2015, 2016, 17, and then it just started fizzling out since there. The inventory was not able to keep up with the demand. New listings and the sales remained relatively stable. The sales slowly started to pick up. This is when COVID hit, everything dropped, but then went right back up, and the sales started to kind of hover similarly in the past 5 years, but they're starting to peak at the similar levels that we saw in the peak of COVID of 2020 and 2021. With this limited inventory and heightened demand for sales, it creates a very tight market, and we're still in that threshold of a seller's market, with the monthly supply being 2.17 right now. So again, anything under 2.5 to 3, we're going to be experiencing that seller's market where it's more advantageous for the sellers, and anything above that range is more of a buyer's market where they have more to choose from. Properties are staying in the market for a longer period of time. But in this case, what that means is we have a total months of supply. Well, obviously that's the term. However, it means that with the sales that we're experiencing and the total inventory that we have, it'll take only 2.17 months to wipe out all of the inventory with the current sales that we're experiencing. So that's not a whole lot. That's, I mean, the average days on market we'll talk about here, but it's increased to about 41 days on market. So if an average property sits on that long, it's still pretty good for a seller, but not very good for a buyer. And that's the market that we are currently experiencing here. So with detached being relatively longer compared to the rest of the categories, mobile sitting on the market for the longest, but everything else semi-detached, so those half duplexes, those are getting snatched up very quickly. Row townhouses and apartments, those are all a hot commodity, with the months of supply being very quick. That means they're not lasting on the market very long, and that means there's not that many properties that will sustain the amount of sales that we are having. So now, how does this look on a bigger picture? Well, with the total residential months of supply and price, we can see as well from the 10-year overall trend, we have ebbs and flows with the seasonality of the market, usually the winter months having higher months of supply, with it being more advantageous historically and seasonally for buyers. But now with the just competitive demand and low inventories, we have still an advantageous market for the sellers, which is opposite and contrary to what we normally experience. The months of supply trend is still going down. That means just because with, again, the supply and demand, it's causing that to occur. The months of supply here is higher compared to the busy spring markets when properties on the market as long and supply goes very quick. This is creating a heightened price to increase, and again, the seasonalities of the market tends to dip a little bit in the winter months, but overall we're still trending upwards for the past 5-6 years. So it's been quite a wild ride that we've been seeing here in Saskatchewan. Now let's talk about the pricing picture. Well, we are at a total benchmark price of $395,300. So that is a 7% increase compared to last year. Breaking this down into each category, detached homes, they're about $449,000, which is again up 7%. Semi-detached, $483, up 6%. Townhouses, $345 benchmark, up 14%, which is the highest of all categories. Those townhouses increased quite a bit. And apartments, $240,000 not on average, benchmark, which we'll talk about the average rate, medium, and benchmark here right away, but those increased by 12%. So on average, total benchmark price increased by 7% compared to last year. With the categories of the price ranges, we can see that average is about in between the 200 to 300, 300 to 400, and 400 and 500. Those are the sticking points. There's some higher price point houses, the 500 and 600 ranges, but usually it's about in between the 2 to the 500 range, what we're experiencing here in Saskatoon. So what do I mean when I talk about benchmark price or average price or median price? They all have their specific use case. However, benchmark price is used most commonly since it is an adjusted value based off of the property's attributes. This is often the most accurate because it does give a representation of the property value changes over time. It accounts for shifts in property characteristics like the types of home sellings. However, it is more complex to calculate as it relies on a consistent and typical property model. It is mostly used to track for market trends and to compare for similar homes over time. The average price is the total value of all the sold properties divided by the number of sales. It's easy to calculate and it provides a very quick snapshot of the market's general price level. However, it can be skewed by extreme values. One very expensive luxury home or one very small mobile home can skew the average quite a bit. So it's good for understanding the overall market trends in areas with consistent price ranges, not where it varies by millions of dollars. And as for the median price, well, that is all of the sold properties when it's arranged from lowest to highest. So half of the properties are sold for more and half of the properties are sold for less. So it's not affected by the extreme highs or the lows. It makes it more of a stable indicator for typical prices. However, it doesn't reflect the full range of market activity, since if a high-end property are performing well, it may not be visible to the median. So it's good for understanding typical property prices in areas with diverse property values, but it's not used in all cases. Benchmark price is the most common one, especially when we're talking about real estate property values. So let's talk about this economy that we're experiencing. What the heck is happening? It's crazy, especially in the slow winter months. We're experiencing crazy market conditions. As of 2024, our city is home to about 347,000 people, and it marks about a 1.45% increase compared to last year. So we're slightly increasing in population. That's just in Saskatoon alone, and that's about 5,000 more compared to last year. Zooming out to the whole province of Saskatchewan, we've hit an all-time high of 1,246,691 people. And that's an annual growth of approximately 26,000 people compared to last year, or 2%, which is still quite a bit. Some people would say we're growing faster than a prairie fire, which maybe you don't want to joke about with all the crazy fires in LA right now, but it's growing like crazy here in Saskatchewan. So as we can see here with the provincial ranking of population growth provinces, Saskatchewan ranks number 2, breaking the charts with people moving over there and the population just growing like crazy. Saskatchewan is the runner-up with people coming to our province. As I said, with the population being 1,246,691 people, we're right behind Alberta with the percentage of growth. And so that is an increase of 6,826,000 people, and it's still quite a bit compared to our province's population in general, but compared to some of the other bigger provinces like Ontario, BC, Quebec, Alberta, it's a small amount, but overall with the population that we have here, it is a lot. And this is quite interesting. It shows the destination of interprovincial migrants. So in Saskatchewan, we saw that from Saskatchewan, people are moving mainly to Alberta and Ontario. Those are the main places, and BC. That's where most people are interprovincially migrating. And I mean, I don't blame people. I'm a sucker for the mountains. I love being out there too. So lots of people are moving to those beautiful Rocky Mountains in Alberta and BC. Ontario, there's a lot going on there too, so I understand that as well. Looking on which provinces are coming to Saskatchewan, funny enough, most people in Saskatchewan are leaving Alberta, but also vice versa, most people from Alberta are moving to Saskatchewan. That's the highest amount of interprovincial migration coming to Saskatchewan is Albertans, as well as people from British Columbia and Ontario. So those provinces seem to have the most activity from one another. There's also some people coming from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec, and Manitoba as well. But BC, Ontario, and Alberta seem to be the highest interprovincial to and from provinces here in Canada. Quite interesting. So based off of the total, we had 4,000 people leave, about 4,000 people come out. So, I mean, total 768,000 people interprovincially we lost, which is about 0.6 negative % decrease. From this graph, it's quite interesting. We could see that Saskatchewan are leaving to Alberta, Northwest Territories are coming to Saskatchewan, Quebec are coming to Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan are going to Ontario, the Atlantic are going to Saskatchewan, and overall international net migration is coming to Saskatchewan. So lots of movement, overall lots of growth in Saskatchewan as a whole. So what's fueling this surge? I mean, a mix of natural growth and significant influx of newcomers, both internationally and from other provinces. People are flocking here from robust job markets and affordable living and unbeatable just Saskatoon and prairie living. Saskatchewan's economy in 2024 has been characterized by significant growth across various sectors, and a couple of these major industries are driving this expansion. One is the agriculture. It remains to be the cornerstone of Saskatchewan's economy, with the province holding over 40% of the Canada's cropland. And this sector experienced increased global demand for agriculture products, contributing to the Saskatchewan's stability and job creation. Another huge industry is the mining and energy field. We're a leading producer in potash, uranium, and crude oil. It's been a substantial investment that we've seen here, with energy products bolstering economic growth and huge employment opportunities. For example, that major BHP mine near the Humboldt area, just a catastrophic, ginormous project that's going on, influxing tons of new people coming to work on the mines. Manufacturing is another major industry, with it being diverse and encompassing machinery, food processing, chemical production. The GDP in manufacturing alone increased by 6% from 4.7 billion all the way to 5 billion in 2024, ranking the first in percentage among the provinces. Another one is the construction field. This is a huge industry where we are experiencing lots of growth in not only the residential space, but also the commercial and industrial space. So there is tons of companies just continuing up with the demand of the construction that we have here, and they're planning on increasing the capital investment by 14% in 2025. Healthcare and nursing is another one. This employment increased by 2% in 2024, reflecting also an increased demand of these health services. Forecasting this GDP growth rate that we saw in the Conference Board of Canada, where expected to increase our GDP in the next coming years by quite a bit. And I think with our resources, our overall economy, I don't think that this is far off, and I think it might even be underestimated. Now, moving on to the building permits. So with this supply and demand, our growing population, how can we sustain this heightened influx of newcomers and just the overall demand that we have here in Saskatchewan? Well, the building permits have increased in quite a bit of categories, which I'll show you here. With the housing starts that we saw, majority were ownership related, also lots rental purpose built. It has increased quite a bit since COVID. More people every day are building just for rental purposes, lots of apartments, commercial buildings, properties with basement suites strictly for the rental purpose. However, ownership still seems to be the driving demand, but the rentals are competing, and at a few points we're in line with the ownership levels for properties just to be rentals. And I believe that is because of, with all the new Canadians coming here, the affordability, the quality of life, the job market, and high paying jobs and low rent amounts. However, rents are still increasing, but compared to other major cities, it's still relatively affordable. So people still want to be in Saskatoon and to have a better quality of life. And so the bigger investors and people who have been living here understand that and are trying to attract more people by having more affordable rentals. And so I think that's what's the cause of this big influx. So as we can see here with the building permits, year to date from 2024 to 2023, we actually saw an overall increase of permits in most categories. So we could see single family dwellings, two family dwellings, row houses, apartments, etc., and some commercial, industrial, whatnot. And then we have the new permits and the improved permits. So December and year to year, I'll focus on the year to year and mostly the number of permits. So with single family dwellings, we had a total of 862 permits. And then in 2023, there's 612. For improvements, there's also quite a bit. The two family dwellings, there were only 59. So that decreased from 73. The row houses increased, and that was only 34 compared to 27 last year. Apartments, there's quite a bit more apartments that were built, 63 compared to 24. So in most categories, they all increased on a whole, with improvements and new housing starts increased from 3,147 all the way from 2,640. So it's still a big amount. And with all the industrial and everything else, that also increased from 3,684 to 3,065. So with all this data and information, what does it mean for you? Well, if you're a seller, this is an opportune time to capitalize on a slower time of market. However, it's busier than the historic slow time. So if you've been thinking about waiting for the spring, well, you might not have to wait, because the data and the market is showing us it is still a favorable time for sellers like you to consider putting your house on the market. And as for buyers, I would say come up with a navigated, competitive market plan and just be ready to capitalize on that property when you see it. Get pre-approved, know what you're looking for, and just be ready to bounce on it as soon as you can. And as for investors, well, there's lots of opportunities here with more rental purpose builds coming and needed in the market as a whole, more rentals needed. The population is growing, more new Canadians need rentals, and overall there's affordable properties to be purchased and lots of opportunity here. So if you're an investor, now's the time to capitalize as well. So if you're thinking of moving, hey, well, just call Bouvier. That's my slogan. Doesn't really work with investors, but if you're thinking to invest, I'm here for you as well. Feel free to just reach out to me. My phone number is 1306-370-6179, or all my contact details are below at my website, and all my links to looking at the properties online, seeing what your home is worth, seeing off-market investment deals, all over there below. I'm happy to connect with you, and thank you for staying tuned to the end of this video. Feel free to watch any other videos and have a great day.